The meeting hall on Nexus Prime stretched for miles in every direction. Floating platforms held representatives from across the galaxy, each species more different than the last. The crystalline Zephyrians sparkled like living diamonds in their environmental suits. The Nebulans floated in their gas-filled chambers, their forms shifting like colored smoke. The insectoid hive queens clicked and chittered through their translators while their drones stood perfectly still behind them. At the center of it all sat the High Council, 5 ancient beings who had guided galactic civilization for over 10,000 years. Today's meeting had drawn more attention than usual. They were discussing a new species. Admiral Kethvar of the Dominion Fleet stood at the speaker's platform. His blue skin gleamed under the chamber's lights, and his 4 arms gestured gracefully as he spoke. The Dominion had been exploring the Outer Rim systems for centuries, always looking for new civilizations to welcome into the galactic community. Honored council members, Kethvar began, his voice carrying easily across the vast chamber. We have discovered a species on the 3rd planet of a yellow star system. They call themselves humans, and their world is named Earth. A holographic display materialized above the platform. It showed a blue and green planet with white clouds swirling around it. The assembled representatives leaned forward to get a better look. New species were always interesting, but most followed predictable patterns. As expected from a young civilization, they are quite primitive, Kethvar continued. The display changed to show human rockets launching from Earth's surface. Gasps and chittering sounds filled the chamber. The rockets used chemical propulsion, a technology most species had abandoned thousands of years ago. They have only recently developed nuclear weapons, the Admiral said. Images of mushroom clouds appeared on the display. Barely 100 of their years ago. Their civilization is fractured into hundreds of competing nations. They fight constantly, among themselves over resources, territory, and ideology. High Counselor Thane, eldest of the council, spoke in his ancient voice. How long have they been aware of space travel? Less than a century, Kethvar replied. They have sent primitive probes to their nearest planetary neighbors and put some of their own kind on their moon using chemical rockets. They appear to be following the standard development pattern we have observed in other species. Counselor Ilex of the Hegemony floated forward in her containment field. Her voice bubbled through the liquid medium she required to survive. Have they detected our observation probes? No signs of it, Kethvar said confidently. Their sensor technology is crude at best. We have been studying them for several of their years without any indication they know we exist. They cannot even detect objects beyond their own solar system with any accuracy. The chamber filled with the various sounds different species made when they found something amusing. Clicks, whistles, harmonious tones, and bubbling laughter echoed through the vast space. It was always the same with new species. They developed just enough technology to be dangerous to themselves, then the galaxy stepped in to guide them properly. What is your recommendation, Admiral? Asked High Counselor Vorn, his rocky hide shifting as he spoke. Kethvar straightened to his full height. Standard first contact protocol, honored council. We approach with a diplomatic vessel and a small battle group for protection. We explain the reality of galactic civilization and offer them membership as a protectorate species. Once they understand the benefits of joining our community, they will accept our guidance. And if they refuse, this came from Counselor Zara, whose 6 eyes blinked in sequence. The Admiral's confidence never wavered. With respect, Counselor, no species has ever refused once they understand what we offer. Safety, protection, advanced technology, an end to their petty wars. What primitive species would choose to remain isolated when faced with the wonders of galactic civilization? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. It was true. In the past 5,000 years, over 200 species had been contacted and welcomed into the galactic community. Some took longer to convince than others, but eventually they all saw reason. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. Young civilizations, needed guidance and protection. Very well, High Counselor Thane declared. Admiral Kethvar, you are authorized to make first contact with the humans of Earth. Take the Sovereign's will in a standard escort squadron. Follow established protocols. Thank you, Honored Council. We will depart immediately. The Sovereign's will was a magnificent vessel, over 2 kilometers long and equipped with the finest technology the Dominion could produce. Its sleek hull curved gracefully, designed for both beauty and function. The ship's shields could deflect. Almost any weapon, and its own armaments, were more than sufficient to protect the diplomatic mission. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge as they prepared to enter hyperspace. His crew moved with practiced efficiency around him. They had done this many times before. First contact was routine now, almost boring in its predictability. All stations report ready, announced his second-in-command, Commander Yexley. Excellent. Engage hyperdrive. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. The journey to Earth would take 3 days. Kethvar spent the time reviewing the protocols and preparing his diplomatic team. They had translators ready for the major human languages, gifts of technology to demonstrate goodwill, and detailed plans for integrating Earth into the galactic community. Everything proceeded exactly as expected until they reached the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral, called the sensor officer, her voice tight with confusion. We are detecting an artificial object approaching our position. Kethvar frowned. That was impossible. According to their intelligence, humans barely had the technology to reach their own moon. How could they have a vessel this far from their planet? Can you identify it? Negative, sir. It appears to be very large. The main screen flickered to life, showing long-range sensor data. At first, Kethvar thought there must be an error. The object showed up as a massive signature on their screens, far larger than any ship a primitive species should be able to. Build! Check the sensors, he ordered. There must be a malfunction. The sensor officer worked frantically at her station. Sensors are functioning normally, sir. The object is definitely artificial and definitely heading directly toward us. How large? Kethvar asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. Sir, if our readings are correct, it masses more than our entire battle group combined. The bridge fell silent. That was impossible. Completely impossible. Species that had barely reached their own moon did not build ships that could dwarf Dominion dreadnoughts. There had to be another explanation. Perhaps it is an abandoned vessel from an ancient civilization, suggested Commander Yexley. The outer rim contains many mysteries. Kethvar nodded slowly. That made more sense. Some ancient race must have left a derelict ship in this system, and the primitive humans had stumbled across it. They were probably trying to make contact because they had found something beyond their understanding. Prepare to receive them, he ordered. If they have found ancient technology, we will need to take possession of it for proper study. Send, a standard greeting in their primary languages. The communications officer began transmitting mathematical sequences and peaceful intentions in what their computers had identified as English, Mandarin, and several other human languages. They waited for a response. What came back made every being on the bridge freeze in shock. The response was in perfect galactic standard. Unknown vessels. This is the United Human Space Vessel Indomitable. We are aware of your mission. We appreciate your interest in our species, but we must decline your offer of contact at this time. Please maintain your current position. Admiral, Kethvar stared at the communications console in disbelief. Galactic Standard was a complex language that took most species years to learn, even with advanced translation technology. How did these primitives know it? How did they know why the Dominion fleet was here? Most disturbing of all, how had they built a ship that made his proud battle group look like escort craft? For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kethvar began to wonder if the Dominion had made a serious mistake. Captain Sarah Chen walked through the corridors of humanity's greatest achievement, and every step reminded her of how different they were from the rest of the galaxy. The walls of the Indomitable were thick steel and ceramic composites, not the elegant crystalline materials other species favored. The lighting was harsh and bright, designed for human eyes that had evolved to work in daylight. Everything about the ship screamed function over form, 15 kilometers from bow to stern. The Indomitable was a monument to human stubbornness. Where alien ships curved gracefully through space like living creatures, the human vessel looked like what it was, a weapon built by a species that had spent its entire history fighting. Angular armor plating covered every surface. Redundant. Systems backed up redundant systems. If something could break, humans had built 2 more to replace it. Chen reached the bridge and took her position in the captain's chair. Around her, 50,000 humans worked to keep their ship running. Engineers who had learned to solve problems by hitting them with bigger hammers. Marines who had trained for every possible combat scenario. Scientists who had pushed the laws of physics to their breaking point through pure determination. "Captain," called Commander Rodriguez from the tactical station. "Long-range sensors confirm the alien fleet's position. 5 ships total, led by what appears to be a heavy cruiser-class vessel." Chen nodded. They had been tracking the aliens since they entered the solar system. The fleet looked impressive by galactic standards, sleek, fast, and armed with energy weapons that could reduce a city to vapor. Unfortunately for them, they had no idea what they were facing. "Any changes in their formation?" Chen asked. "Negative. They are maintaining standard diplomatic positioning. Weapons powered down, shields at minimum levels. They definitely think this is going to be a normal first contact scenario." Lieutenant Commander Park spoke up from the communications station. "Captain, we are receiving their standard greeting package. Mathematical sequences, universal peace symbols, requests for basic communication in multiple Earth languages." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "How quaint. They still think we are primitives who just learned to make fire. Are our translation systems ready?" "Yes, ma'am. We have been monitoring galactic communications for 37 years. Our linguists have mapped over 200 alien languages and dialects. We can speak to them better than they can speak to each other." That was the secret the aliens did not know. Humanity had been listening. When the first radio telescopes detected artificial signals from space, most of Earth's governments had dismissed them as natural phenomena. A few scientists knew better. They had built bigger antennas, more sensitive receivers, and slowly begun to decode the chatter of galactic civilization. The discovery had changed everything. Humanity learned they were not alone, and more importantly, they learned they were being watched. Alien probes had been studying Earth for years, cataloging human weaknesses and planning first contact. The Watchers were confident in their superiority, casual in their surveillance. They never imagined the primitives might be listening back. What humanity heard convinced them that joining galactic civilization would mean becoming a junior partner at best, a slave species at worst. The galaxy was run by old powers who saw younger races as children to be guided and controlled. They offered protection, but the price was freedom. Humanity chose a different path. "Captain, we are ready to begin the demonstration," announced Chen's. Executive Officer Commander Sarah Kim Chen stood and straightened her uniform. The blue and gold of the United Human Space Force had never been worn in battle, but today that would change. Today, humanity would announce itself to the galaxy not as supplicants seeking membership, but as equals demanding respect. "All stations, this is the captain. We are about to make first contact with an alien civilization. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. We do not kneel. We do not beg. We do not ask for permission to exist. Humanity chooses its own path among the stars." Acknowledgements came back from throughout the ship. In engineering, Chief Parker checked the fusion reactors that powered systems the aliens would not believe possible. In the weapons bays, Master, Gunner Jackson made final preparations for an arsenal that would redefine galactic warfare. In the hangars, Wing Commander Torres ran last-minute checks on fighter craft that could outmaneuver anything in known space. Every system on the Indomitable had been designed with one purpose: to make absolutely certain that humanity's first contact would be on human terms. "Communications. Open a channel to the alien fleet," Chen ordered. "Channel open, Captain." Chen took a deep breath. The next words out of her mouth would change the course of galactic history. "Unknown vessels, this is the United Human Space Vessel Indomitable. We are aware of your mission. We appreciate your interest in our species, but we must decline your offer of contact at this time. Please maintain your current position." The effect was immediate. The alien ship's energy signatures spiked as their crews went to alert status. Chen could imagine the confusion on their bridges. How did the primitives know Galactic Standard? How did they know why the aliens were here? How had they built a ship this size? "Captain," Rodriguez reported, "the alien fleet is powering up sensors and defensive systems. They are trying to get better readings on us." "Let them look," Chen said calmly. "Make sure our weapon systems are visible on their scans. I want them to see exactly what they are dealing with. What the aliens would see would terrify them. Humanity had taken 40 years to build the Indomitable, and every lesson learned in Earth's bloody history had been incorporated into its design. While aliens fought elegant duels with energy weapons, humans had weaponized everything from kinetic projectiles to antimatter. The ship's main guns could accelerate tungsten projectiles to 20% of light speed. Its missile tubes held nuclear-pumped lasers that could burn through any known shielding. The hangar bays contained swarms of autonomous fighters that could overwhelm enemy point defenses through sheer numbers. But the real secret was in the ship's construction. Humans had reverse-engineered alien technology and then improved it. Fusion reactors provided more power than the aliens thought possible. Armor materials combined human metallurgy with alien crystal matrices. Shield generators borrowed alien field theory, but used human power sources. The Indomitable was not just a ship. It was proof that humanity could take the best the galaxy had to offer and make it better. "Captain, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Park announced. "Put it through." A new voice came through the speakers, speaking accented but understandable Galactic Standard. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Dominion Fleet. We do not understand your response. We have come to offer your species membership in the galactic community. This is a great honor that has been extended to your world." Chen smiled coldly. "Admiral Kethvar, we understand your offer perfectly. We have been monitoring galactic communications for decades. We know exactly what membership in your community entails. We choose to decline." "That is impossible," came the confused reply. "No species has ever refused contact with galactic civilization. The benefits we offer far outweigh any concerns you might have." "Admiral," Chen said, her voice carrying the steel that had taken humanity to the stars, "we appreciate that you believe you know what is best for us. However, humanity has always chosen its own path. We did not ask to be contacted. We did not request your guidance. We certainly did not give you permission to study us like laboratory animals." Silence stretched across space. Chen could picture the alien admiral struggling to understand what he was hearing. In his experience, primitive species were grateful for contact. They begged to join galactic civilization. They never spoke as equals. "Human captain," the admiral finally said, "perhaps you do not understand the realities of galactic politics. There are dangers in space that your species cannot face alone. We offer protection, advanced technology, peaceful coexistence with hundreds of other civilizations. And in return, we give up our independence," Chen replied. "We become a protectorate, guided by species who believe they know better than we do how to live our lives. Thank you, but no." "This is unprecedented," the admiral said, and Chen could hear the shock in his voice. "I must ask you to reconsider. The galaxy is not a safe place for isolated species." Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Humans who had spent their lives preparing for this moment, engineers and warriors and scientists who had never known a universe where humanity was anything less than free. "Admiral," she said, "allow me to demonstrate something for you. Humanity has never been safe. We have always lived in a dangerous universe. The difference is, we have learned to be more dangerous than anything that threatens us." She turned to her weapons officer. "Commander Rodriguez, power up all weapon systems. Give our guests a good look at what human engineering can accomplish." "Aye, Captain, all weapons coming online." The Indomitable came alive around them. Fusion reactors hummed to full power. Weapon systems that had never been tested outside of simulations began their startup sequences. Shield generators created overlapping fields of energy that could deflect anything the galaxy could throw at them. Admiral Kethvar stood frozen on the bridge of the Sovereign's will as his sensor operators called out readings that should have been impossible. The human ship was not just large, it was radiating energy signatures that broke every rule he knew about physics and engineering. "Sir," his chief sensor operator called out, her voice cracking with disbelief. "The human vessel is generating power output equivalent to a small star. Their shield harmonics are completely unknown to our databases, and their weapon systems—" She paused, checking her readings again. "Sir, I am reading weapon systems that our computers cannot even classify." Kethvar felt his confidence crumbling like sand. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. The primitive species should be overwhelmed by their first glimpse of galactic technology. They should be begging to learn from their superior visitors. They certainly should not be casually displaying military capabilities that made the Dominion fleet look like children's toys. "How is this possible?" he whispered to himself. But his second-in-command heard him. "Sir, perhaps they found ancient technology," Commander Yexley suggested. "The Outer Rim contains many archaeological sites. If they discovered a fully functional warship from one of the elder races—" "No," Kethvar said slowly, studying the readings more carefully. "This is not ancient technology. Look at the design signatures. This ship was built recently, and it was built by humans. They somehow developed capabilities that should have taken them thousands more years to achieve." The communications officer looked up from his station with wide eyes. "Admiral, the humans are broadcasting again." "Put it through," Kethvar ordered, though he dreaded what he might hear. Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge, calm and confident. "Admiral Kethvar, your sensor sweeps are quite thorough. I trust you are getting good readings on our capabilities. As you can see, we are not quite as primitive as your intelligence report suggested." Kethvar struggled to find his voice. In all his years of first contact missions, he had never encountered anything like this. "Captain Chen, I must admit that your vessel is far more advanced than we expected. However, this only reinforces why your species should join the galactic community. With proper guidance, you could—" "Admiral," Chen interrupted, "let me stop you there. We know about your guidance. We have been listening to galactic communications for decades. We know how protectorate species are treated. We know about the technology restrictions, the cultural oversight, the political control. We have seen what happens to civilizations that accept your offer." The alien admiral felt ice forming in his veins. They had been monitoring galactic communications for decades. That meant they knew about the surveillance, the debates in the council chambers, the casual dismissal of Earth as just another primitive world to be absorbed. "You have been spying on us," he said, accusation clear in his voice. "We have been listening to public communications," Chen corrected. "Your people broadcast on frequencies that travel across the galaxy. It is hardly our fault that you never considered the possibility that someone might be paying attention. We learned your languages, studied your politics, and discovered exactly what kind of future you were planning for humanity." Around the bridge of the Sovereign's will, Kethvar's crew exchanged nervous glances. This was not in any of their protocols. First contact scenarios always assumed the primitive species would be ignorant of galactic affairs. The possibility that they might have been studying galactic civilization for decades had never been considered. "Captain," Kethvar said, trying to regain some authority, "even if you have concerns about the protectorate system, surely you understand that isolation is not a viable option. The galaxy contains threats that no single species can face alone. Pirates, rogue AI systems, stellar phenomena that can destroy entire worlds. The galactic community provides protection from these dangers." Chen's laugh was cold and sharp. "Admiral, I think you misunderstand something fundamental about humanity. We do not want protection from danger. We want to be the most dangerous thing in our neighborhood." As if to emphasize her point, the human ship's weapon systems came fully online. The Indomitable's arsenal lit up Kethvar's tactical displays like a nightmare. Energy weapons with power outputs that should have been impossible. Kinetic accelerators that could launch projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missile systems containing warheads his computers could not even identify. "By the ancient stars," breathed his weapons officer. "Sir, they have enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet 10 times over." But it was not just the raw power that terrified Kethvar, it was the design philosophy behind the weapons. Galactic civilization had spent millennia refining warfare into an elegant art. Ships engaged at long range with precision energy beams, trying to disable rather than destroy. Battles were fought according to rules that minimized casualties and preserved valuable technology. The human arsenal followed no such civilized constraints. Every weapon appeared designed for one purpose: to kill as efficiently as possible. Their kinetic weapons could punch through any armor. Their energy systems ignored conventional shielding techniques. Their missiles carried warheads that would not just destroy a ship but vaporize it completely. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "the humans are requesting a response to their demonstration." Kethvar realized he had been standing in stunned silence for several minutes while his mind tried to process what he was seeing. "Open a channel," he managed to say. "Admiral," came Chen's voice, "I hope that display was educational. As you can see, humanity has developed our own approach to space warfare. We learned everything we could about galactic military technology, and then we designed systems specifically to counter it." "This is madness," Kethvar said. "No civilized species builds weapons like these. The collateral damage alone would be catastrophic," Chen agreed cheerfully. "That is the point, Admiral. When someone threatens humanity, we want them to know that the cost of aggression will be higher than they can afford to pay. We call it deterrence through superior firepower." Kethvar's military training finally reasserted itself. Despite the shock of the situation, he was still a fleet admiral with responsibilities to his crew and his mission. "Captain Chen, regardless of your impressive display, I have orders to establish contact with your species. The Galactic Council expects a full report on this encounter." "Of course they do," Chen replied, "and you will give them one. You will tell them that humanity appreciates their interest but declines their offer of membership. You will explain that we prefer to handle our own affairs, and you will make it very clear that any future contact must be conducted between equals, not between guardian and ward." "The Council will never accept such terms," Kethvar said. "They have guided galactic civilization for 10,000 years. They do not negotiate with primitive species." "Admiral," Chen said, and her voice carried a note of warning that made every being on the alien bridge shiver, "we are not a primitive species. We are humanity. We have spent our entire history fighting everything from wild animals to nuclear warfare. We have survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and our own worst instincts. We did not climb to the top of our food chain by being reasonable. The human ship's weapons cycled to higher power levels, and Kethvar's shields automatically strengthened in response. The gesture was automatic, but it felt pathetically inadequate against the firepower arrayed against them. However, Chen continued, we are not unreasonable. We do not wish to be enemies of galactic civilization. We simply refuse to be its children. If the Council wishes to establish diplomatic relations between sovereign equals, we are willing to discuss such arrangements. If they insist on treating us as primitives to be guided and controlled, then this conversation is over. Kethvar looked around his bridge at his crew. Experienced officers who had handled dozens of first contact scenarios were staring at their instruments in shock. Everything they knew about galactic politics, about the natural order of technological development, about the proper relationship between advanced and primitive species, had just been thrown out the airlock by a species that should have been begging for their help. "Captain," he said slowly, "I will relay your message to the Council, but I must warn you that they may not respond as diplomatically as you hope." "Admiral," Chen replied, "that will be their choice. But before you leave, let me share something with you. This ship, impressive as it may be, is not humanity's only achievement. We have more, many more. And if the Council decides that humanity needs to be brought into line by force, they will discover that we have prepared for that possibility as well." The transmission cut off, leaving Kethvar staring at the massive human vessel on his view screen. In his entire career, he had never felt so small, so unprepared, so completely out of his depth. "Admiral," his navigator asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethvar straightened his uniform and tried to remember his training. "Set course for Nexus Prime. Maximum speed. The Council needs to know what we have encountered here." As the Dominion fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Kethvar took one last look at the human ship. It hung in space like a metal mountain, bristling with weapons and radiating power that defied comprehension. Captain Chen watched the alien fleet through the Indomitable's main view screen as they prepared to leave. She could see their ships powering up their hyperdrives, getting ready to run back to their council with news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. But she could not let them leave just yet. They needed to understand exactly what kind of species they had encountered. "Commander Rodriguez," she said calmly, "target their escort vessels. Disable their engines and weapons, but leave their life support intact. I want survivors to carry our message back to the Council." Rodriguez's fingers danced over his tactical console. "Targets locked, Captain. All weapons ready. Admiral Kethvar," Chen called out over the communications channel. "Before you leave, I want to make sure you fully understand the situation. Consider this a practical demonstration of human military doctrine." On the bridge of the Sovereign's will, Kethvar felt his blood freeze. "Captain Chen, there is no need for hostilities. We are prepared to withdraw and relay your message to the Council." "Oh, this is not hostility, Admiral," Chen replied cheerfully. "This is education. You are about to learn how humans fight when diplomacy fails. Consider it a gift of knowledge to take back to your superiors." The Indomitable opened fire. What happened next redefined warfare for every species in the galaxy. Human weapons did not behave like anything in the galactic military databases. Where alien energy beams sought to overwhelm shields through sustained bombardment, human weapons simply ignored shields entirely. The first salvo consisted of kinetic. Penetrators accelerated to 20% of light speed. The tungsten rods punched through the escort ship's shields as if they did not exist, tearing through armor plating like paper. But the projectiles had been precisely aimed. They destroyed engine compartments and weapon arrays while leaving crew, quarters and life support systems intact. The second salvo demonstrated human missile technology. The warheads did not explode in the conventional sense. Instead, they released clouds of metallic particles that interfaced with alien electronic systems, shutting down computers and sensors without harming organic crew members. In seconds, 2 of the escort vessels were dead in space, their crews, alive but helpless. The third salvo was the most terrifying. Energy weapons that operated on principles alien scientists did not understand carved through the remaining escort ship's defenses. The beams seemed to phase in and out of normal space, bypassing shields by existing in dimensions the shields could not block. Within minutes, all 4 escort vessels were disabled. their crews shocked but unharmed. Throughout the engagement, the Sovereign's will itself remained untouched. Chen had made her point without threatening the flagship directly. "Admiral," Chen's voice came over the communications channel. "As you can see, we have neutralized your escort vessels without harming their crews. This is what humans call a demonstration of capability. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first 30 seconds of engagement, but we chose not to. Your people are alive because we allowed them to live." Kethavar stared at his tactical displays in horror. His escort squadron, 4 of the finest ships in the Dominion fleet, had been reduced to floating scrap in less than 5 minutes. The humans had done it with casual efficiency, using weapons and techniques that should not have been possible. "How?" he whispered. "How did you develop such capabilities so quickly?" Chen's answer chilled him to the bone. "Admiral, you made the same mistake everyone makes when they encounter humanity. You assumed that because we are young, we must be weak. You forgot that young species often develop in dangerous environments. Earth has tried to kill us since the day we first walked upright. We have survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, plagues, and global wars. We learned to fight everything from saber-toothed tigers to nuclear weapons." She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. "When we discovered that the galaxy was watching us, planning to treat us like children who needed guidance, we made a decision. We would be ready for anything you could throw at us. We spent 40 years studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Then we built weapons specifically designed to counter everything in your arsenal." "But the physics," Kethavar protested. "Some of those weapons operate on principles that should be impossible for a species at your development level." "Should be, yes," Chen agreed. "But you see, Admiral, humans have a saying, the impossible just takes a little longer. We took your elegant theories about shield harmonics and power generation, and we improved them. We found ways to make antimatter more stable, kinetic weapons more accurate, energy beams more efficient. We did not just copy your technology. We made it better." Rodriguez spoke up from his station. "Captain, I am detecting hyperspace signatures. The disabled ships are preparing to jump to safety." "Let them go," Chen ordered. "Their crews have learned what they need to know." One by one, the crippled escort vessels vanished into hyperspace, carried to safety by emergency protocols. Their crews would survive to tell the tale of what human weapons could do. But the Sovereign's will remained, its admiral still trying to process what he had witnessed. "Admiral," Chen continued, "I want you to understand something important. What you just saw was not our full capability. The Indomitable is a single ship, impressive but not unique. Humanity has prepared for the possibility that galactic civilization might not accept our independence. We have contingency plans for every scenario your council might consider." "You are threatening the entire galaxy," Kethavar said, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. "Not threatening," Chen corrected. "Warning, we do not want to fight the galaxy, Admiral. We want to live in peace and pursue our own destiny among the stars. But if forced to choose between freedom and safety, humanity will choose freedom every time. And we have made sure that choice will be respected." Through the view screen, Kethavar could see the Indomitable in all its terrifying glory. 15 kilometers of armored death, bristling with weapons that could rewrite the rules of space combat. But even more frightening was the knowledge that this might not be humanity's most dangerous creation. "What do you want from us?" he asked finally. "Simple recognition," Chen replied. "We want the galaxy to understand that humanity is not a client, species to be managed. We are not children to be guided. We are a sovereign civilization capable of defending ourselves and making our own decisions. If the Council can accept that, then we can discuss trade, cultural exchange, perhaps even military cooperation against genuine threats." "And if they cannot accept it?" Chen's pause stretched for long seconds before she answered. "Then they will learn that humanity is very good at teaching lessons to those who refuse to listen to reason. The communications channel fell silent as both captains considered the implications of what had just occurred. First contact had become something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of a primitive species begging to join galactic civilization, the galaxy had encountered equals who demanded respect. "Admiral," Chen said finally, "you should return to your council now. They need to know what they are dealing with. Tell them that humanity extends an offer of mutual respect and cooperation between sovereign equals. Tell them that we hope for peaceful relations. And tell them that if they choose differently, they will find us ready for that as well." "I will relay your message," Kethavar said quietly. "But, Captain, I fear that the Council may not respond as reasonably as you hope. They have guided galactic civilization for 10,000 years. They may see your independence as a threat to the natural order." "Admiral," Chen replied, "the natural order is whatever the strongest species says it is. Today, we are demonstrating that humanity intends to have a voice in defining that order. Your council can work with us, or they can learn to work around us, but they cannot simply ignore us." The Sovereign's will began to power up its hyperdrive, preparing to carry news of this encounter back to Nexus Prime. As the alien ship prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Chen made one final transmission. "Safe travels, Admiral. I hope the next time we meet, it will be under more pleasant circumstances." The Dominion flagship vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Indomitable alone in the vast emptiness between stars. On the bridge, Chen's crew began shutting down weapon systems and returning the ship to normal operational status. "Captain," Rodriguez said, "all weapons secured. Damage to the escort vessels was within acceptable parameters. No casualties detected." "Good," Chen nodded. "Commander Kim, prepare a full report for Earth Command. Include sensor logs of the engagement and all communications with the alien fleet." "Aye, Captain. What should I tell them about our next move?" Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about the message that was even now racing toward the galactic capital. In a few days, the most powerful beings in the galaxy would learn that their assumption of superiority had been shattered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "Tell them we have fired the first shot in a new kind of war," she said quietly. "Not a war of conquest or destruction, but a war for the right to determine our own future. And tell them that humanity has just announced to the galaxy that we intend to win." The Indomitable turned toward home, carrying news of humanity's first victory in a conflict that would reshape galactic civilization forever. 6 months after first contact, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. The great meeting hall on Nexus Prime had never seen such disorder. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted, chittered, and buzzed in their native languages while translators struggled to keep up. The carefully maintained peace of 10,000 years was cracking under the weight of a single word: humanity. High Counselor Thane called for order with his ancient voice, but it took several minutes for the assembly to quiet down. When silence finally fell, the weight of the crisis was visible in every representative's posture. The galaxy's oldest and most stable institution was facing its greatest challenge. "We have all read Admiral Kethavar's report," Thane began, his words carrying across the vast chamber. "We have seen the sensor logs and tactical analysis. The question before us today is simple. How do we respond to this unprecedented situation?" Ambassador Veltar of the Peaceful Accord floated forward in her environmental suit. Her species had spent millennia mediating disputes between other civilizations, and her voice carried the wisdom of ages. "Honored Council," she said, "perhaps we are approaching this problem from the wrong direction. We have spent months debating how to force human compliance with galactic norms. But has anyone considered that the humans might have something to teach us?" A wave of shocked sounds rippled through the assembly. The idea that a primitive species could teach galactic civilization anything was almost heretical. The humans demonstrated capabilities that our best scientists claimed were impossible. Veltar continued. They developed weapon systems that rendered our finest military technology obsolete. Most importantly, they did this while maintaining a technological and philosophical independence that we have not seen in thousands of years. Counselor Ilex of the Hegemony bubbled angrily in her containment field. You speak of independence as if it were a virtue. The galaxy is peaceful precisely because species accept guidance from their betters. These humans threaten the order that has kept us safe for millennia. Safe for whom? The voice came from the back of the chamber, and every head turned to identify the speaker. It was Ambassador Nixon of the Outer Rim Coalition, representing a dozen smaller species that had joined galactic civilization as junior partners. With respect, Counselor Ilex, Nixon continued, the Galactic Order has been very comfortable for the founding species. But for those of us who joined later, membership has meant accepting permanent second-class status. We provide resources and labor while the Council species control technology and policy. Murmurs of agreement came from representatives of smaller civilizations throughout the chamber. It was a sentiment that had been growing for centuries, but had never been expressed so directly. High Counselor Vorn's rocky hide shifted as he spoke. The Protectorate system has brought peace and prosperity to hundreds of worlds. Without proper guidance, younger species destroy themselves with primitive conflicts and dangerous technologies. The humans seem to have avoided that fate, observed Counselor Zara, her 6 eyes blinking thoughtfully. Despite their warlike nature, they achieved interstellar capability without destroying their homeworld. Perhaps our assumptions about necessary guidance are not as universal as we believed. Admiral Kethvar, who had been silent throughout the debate, finally spoke. Honored Council, I have spent the past 6 months analyzing the human encounter from every possible angle. My conclusion is that we are not dealing with a typical primitive species. The humans represent something we have never encountered before, a civilization that achieved advanced technology while maintaining complete independence. He activated a holographic display showing the tactical analysis of the engagement. Their weapon systems demonstrate understanding of physics that should have taken them centuries to develop. But more than that, they show a completely different approach to technology and warfare. Where we seek to minimize conflict through overwhelming superiority, they have prepared for total war, which proves they are dangerous and must be contained, interrupted General Thexmar of the warrior caste. No species should possess such destructive capability without oversight. General, Kethvar replied, containment may no longer be possible. Our intelligence report suggests that the Indomitable was not humanity's only achievement. They appear to have developed an entire military infrastructure specifically designed to resist galactic intervention. The chamber erupted in alarmed sounds as species realized the implications. If the humans had prepared for war against galactic civilization itself, then traditional methods of bringing them into line would be catastrophically expensive. What do you recommend, Admiral? Asked High Counselor Thane. Kethvar straightened. To his full height, his forearms spread in a gesture of honesty. Honored Council, I believe we must do something that has never been done in our history. We must treat the humans as equals from the beginning. The silence that followed was deafening. For 10,000 years, the Council had guided younger species into galactic civilization. The idea of immediately recognizing a new species as equals challenged the fundamental structure of their society. Impossible, declared Counselor Ilex. It would set a precedent that could destabilize the entire galactic order. Other species might begin demanding equal status. Perhaps they should, said Ambassador Veltar quietly. The humans have demonstrated that rapid technological advancement is possible without Council guidance. What if we have been limiting the potential of other species by assuming they need our oversight? Representative Korth of the Scientific Union activated his translator. I have been reviewing human technological development since first contact. Their approach to problem solving is unlike anything in our databases, where we develop elegant, Solutions through careful theory, they create brute force applications that somehow work better than our refined methods. Barbaric, sniffed Counselor Ilex. Effective, Korth corrected. Their fusion reactors produce more power per unit mass than ours. Their weapons penetrate our shields because they operate on principles we never considered. Their ship design prioritizes redundancy and durability over aesthetics, resulting in vessels that can survive damage that would cripple our finest craft. Ambassador Nixon floated forward. Honored Council, I propose that we consider this crisis as an opportunity. The humans have shown us that there are alternatives to the traditional development path. Perhaps it is time to reconsider how we integrate new species into galactic civilization. What are you suggesting? Asked High Counselor Vorn. Full diplomatic recognition for humanity, Nixon said boldly. Not as a protectorate, but as a sovereign civilization with equal standing in galactic affairs. In exchange, we propose a cultural and technological exchange program that could benefit all our species. The chamber buzzed with debate as representatives considered this radical proposal. The implications were staggering. If humanity received immediate recognition as equals, other species might demand the same treatment. The careful hierarchy that had maintained galactic peace for millennia could collapse. High Counselor Thane called for quiet. The proposal before us represents a fundamental change in how we approach galactic civilization. Before we proceed, I want to hear from those species who have direct experience with accelerated development. Over the next several hours, representatives shared their experiences. The pattern that emerged was disturbing for the Council's traditional approach. Species that had been given more autonomy had developed faster and contributed more to galactic civilization. Those kept under strict oversight had stagnated, contributing little beyond raw materials and basic labor. As the debate continued, reports arrived from across the galaxy. Human ships had been detected in multiple systems, not as invaders, but as explorers and traders. They were making contact with independent species that the Council had not yet approached, offering trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. They are building their own coalition, Admiral Kethavar reported grimly. Species that feel marginalized by the current galactic order are responding positively to human overtures. If this continues, we may face a competing power block within a few years. The realization hit the Council like a cold wave. Humanity was not just refusing to join galactic civilization on traditional terms. They were creating an alternative that other species found attractive. What do they want from us? Asked High Counselor Thane. Ambassador Veltar, who had been quietly communicating with human representatives, answered. They want recognition as equals, nothing more and nothing less. They are willing to engage in trade, cultural exchange, and even military cooperation against genuine threats, but they will not accept oversight or guidance from any external authority. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Ilex. Then they will continue building their own version of galactic civilization, Veltar replied. One based on voluntary association between equals rather than hierarchical guidance from ancient powers. The chamber fell silent as the Council contemplated their options. They could try to suppress humanity by force, but the cost would be enormous and success uncertain. They could ignore the humans and hope the problem went away, but that would likely result in a competing galactic